Like, it's not me calling out business mentors because I have a lot of respect for good business mentors, but it's just like, you know, that feeling that you get when you get a client come in and they're jacked, but they're just carrying a bit of body fat, and you're like, fucking gift horse, this is gonna be good. Rather than that person that's like posture like this, vegan, can barely drag their leg. That vegan leg dragger is the coach without any results trying to sell a 6-figure business.
Yeah.
As opposed to the guy who's absolutely fucking phenomenal, that's now just needs to get that. All you need to do with someone like you now, with some results behind you, is get it out to more people.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying marketing and business is easy by any stretch of imagination, but if you can get yourself out to more people, you will sell because you're good and there's weight behind your words. Whereas like a business mentor can get a shit person with good Canva graphics out to 1 million people and no one buys it.
And I feel that now as well, like in my content, I mean, not like that before, this is probably my best result. Before that, I still had really good fucking results, but I feel like I've like arrived. I feel like when I was at this coaching event at the weekend, like this one guy, do you know who Joe Is Fit? Have you heard of him on Instagram?
Rings a bell. Joe Is Fit. Let me have a look.
It really fucks me off, right? This guy was on the stage, the worst personality I've ever seen. And he was like, Mark was like doing like a podcasty interview type thing, and we were just like watching it. I think he's earning 23K a month, right? He's like 25, and he's got, like, as I said, zero personality, literally almost no results. But he promotes himself as like, his program's called the Athletic Aesthetic, which is fair enough. It's primarily like
hasn't changed.
Stuff. Yeah, and the mad thing is, right, I get that he helps people with more like athletic type stuff. But somebody asked him, and he was like, so what sort of courses did you do to like, you know, get yourself in a position to be able to like coach people on this stuff, like athletics type stuff? He's like, none.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. As if you were actually open to admitting that as well.
Yeah, and I even tried talking to him. You know, you tried talking to somebody. Like I said, I complimented him on his talk, and I was trying to like talk to him about his trainers. I said, what does your train look like, and this and that. He didn't ask me any questions, just kind of just answered it and just kind of walked away. And I was like, you're a cunt.
I found that's the TMP event. Like, no disrespect to TMP, because I appreciate that I've already clicked record. Because TMP are great. And I get what Kieran was doing. He was like, you find people with like big followings, some people with a little bit of a backstory, and they're the people that are going to, like, if they're shared, they're going to go viral. Like, if you got me on, like, I'm not saying I don't have a particularly big backstory, but let's say you got me on. I have 3,000 people on Instagram. Whereas you've got the guy who runs, oh God, what the fuck's his name? He does the social media stuff, marketing stuff. Kian went to one of his courses recently. Really good. He has like 1 million followers.
Yeah.
And I'm not like discrediting anything these guys have gone through, all their story, all the hard work with TMP. Not in the slightest. But you found that all of them looked at the slides, not the audience. Who does a speech and doesn't look at the audience?
Yeah, I know.
But the TMP speeches were fantastic. Kieran, Dan, Charlotte. Kieran got on stage with his therapist and he had a little bit of an interview. That was fantastic. But like, they were looking at the slides. Like, it's about their life. Like, if you can't memorize your life, there's a problem. You know, to a degree. And then, like, no one got on stage. And I thought it was because maybe it'll cast a shadow, because like there was like a cinema. So like the stage came up and it went straight to the screen. But then Kieran got on stage for this interview thing. I'm like, what? I would have been straight up on stage. I would have owned that room. And then so I was speaking to these guys afterwards, and you could tell there was just nothing to them, because it was like, like you said, you just start asking them a question about anything, and they're like, "Oh, thanks, mate," and then they immediately someone they're comfortable in.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is strange. I would have spent time. Someone came up to me and was nice enough to ask me questions. I would have given them the time of day. Yeah,
definitely. He asked him, he was like, so what's in store now for Joe? Like, at the end, he goes, work on branding. And that was it. Didn't say anything else. I was like,
oh my God. No. I think a coach, no matter how big you get in the business, unless you become like a multi, he probably is. He is probably a millionaire by the way, if you're making 20 grand a month. But if you become a multi-millionaire and you have multiple staff and locations, maybe, I don't know what that's like. Maybe then the focus has to be solely on business and move away from any coaching stuff. But I think, and I'm not a fan of the guy, but what I will say about Nick Mitchell is that if you look at his Instagram Q&As, I haven't looked at one for a very long time, so maybe it's changed. But he still answers fitness questions. He still understands the topic. He still loves bodybuilding. Like, I think he lacks integrity in a lot of areas, but he doesn't lack integrity in that. And I think there's so many guys now that want to be influencers more than they want to be personal trainers. Like, I generally saw this once. I know, I appreciate I'll get onto you guys and what you need in a second. But I remember in the OT was the worst for it. And I don't think it was Adam's fault. I just think it happened to be the crop of people that were coming into the OT whilst I was in the OT. But the amount of people that were like, they were like one-man bands. And before they get a VA, before they get a setter, before they get anyone to do their automations, they go, how can I hire someone to outsource my programming? This isn't hiring a member of staff.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember
outsourcing programming. I feel like it's all going to come crashing down. Yeah, I agree. I hope so. I kind of hope so. Because if those fucking mugs come crashing down, that is more business for good coaches. And I'm not looking at it from my point of view. Although if they want to pay me, when it all comes crashing down, I'm very grateful for it. But I think there's that element of, like, if it comes crashing down, there are people out there, phenomenal coaches that maybe aren't the best marketers or the best branders because they've been head down working with clients that now aren't getting business compared to this guy who has a cookie cutter. Like, for example, and I'm not calling these people out. I'm giving the framework because I only tend to hang out with people that aren't total morons. But if you look at Joss Mooney, who's part of Elevate Academy, you look at Joseph Rakich. If you look at, to a degree, Joe Wicks, although Joe Wicks is an incredible businessman, and he is an influencer. Like, he's not a PT. Or what's the guy? Mike Thurston, right? You look at those guys, they all run a program called Macroactive. Right? Have you heard of Macroactive? So Macroactive, it's rare. I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm not saying I wouldn't ever do it, but I would do it my way. But you basically get this app. They take about 30% of your revenue. So it's built for influencers, right? Who don't really want to do loads of the nitty gritty work, but can get 1,000 people onto the product. So losing 30% doesn't matter. So they'll have a low ticket offer and a high ticket offer. The low ticket offer is basically completely automated. So you build the programs out once and you build sort of like a list of exercises with like swaps. So let's say you use my 8 movement patterns, bilateral quad, unilateral quad, etc., etc. If your client didn't like it, you could change the exercise, and it wouldn't change like an app. It would have a pause and a delay to make it look like you'd gone in on the back end and changed it. Send you an automated message saying, "Hey, I've changed your exercise." Okay. It would it will change your nutrition and calories for you based off the input, right? So like literally people go in and they'll get all their adjustments done, and they think they've got it from their coach, but they haven't. The algorithm changes the calories for them. If you look at in your spreadsheets, if you look at the hidden tabs, there's a nutrition adjustments tab that I've never shown you. That is me trying to work out how to automatically adjust calories. So I don't mind that. I don't mind having a level of automation because if you can make it as automated, you make a fully automated product and then go in and sprinkle a bit of you. Like, you go in and troubleshoot. Your job is not to make programs from scratch. It's to use your expertise to make the best products in the world and then go in if you need to and go, right, this client's got a photo shoot in 3 weeks. That's not the right thing. I'm going to do this. Or, oh, okay, this client needs a bit more help with sleep. As opposed to like being in the weeds of it. But what these things often encourage is Instagram influencers that just want a automated product and they can just be the face on Instagram. And that's the problem, because there's lots of people that are getting burnt by these things.
Yeah, but usually something like that works for you, Simon, because, you're good at what you do. Or may potentiation work, as in the automation and with the calories and stuff, where you can it makes your life a bit easier to a degree.
Yes, automation works for me, will work for me because I know I can make a really good program and I know how to quickly personalize things. However, it still works for these influencers, even though the programs are shit and the meal plans are shit, because because they don't give a fuck if I get 1 million people and I only get 100 results a month. Because that's my marketing.
It works on the law of averages. Like,
yes.
If I'm fucking selling, I don't know, fucking electricity, and I knock on 1,000 doors. Same sort of,
Well, exactly.
Like and I get it, because I've fallen out. Not fallen out. I had to argue because I worked with them both. Okay, before they became mentors back in the bodybuilding days, Mark Coles and Phil Graham. And I've been to both of their, whatever you call it, the big fucking action days or whatever, and and I called them out both on it, whereas and Phil, I'd honestly, he admitted, not on camera, okay, and you'll see in the last year, so he's changed, okay, because Phil was a fucking good personal trainer, a fucking good, okay, and so was Mark to a degree as well.
And I will say this, that's rare as well. Like Mark and Phil are really good personal trainers, and there are people out there. I'm not going to name them, but there are people out there that are doing education for coaches that are terrible personal trainers.
Yes. And that's what I called Phil and Mark on. And I says, you're promoting these coaches that you know that these coaches are shit, you know, but you're helping them be better sales.
Yeah.
You know? And they, of course, they try and defend themselves, but they know deep down.
It's a shame with Mark because he's got the M10 products, and now M10's closing down. I'm hoping that he wants to try and continue a little bit of this. And he don't just die a death, and B brings the physique mentorship program into his mentorship program.
Hopefully.
Like charge more, but just merge them.
Like the M10 mentorship was good. I've done it, and I've done other bits and pieces and mentorship days with Mark and the lads, you know, but it's a shame when I seen it going. And that's why, you know, like Dan was incredible as well. You know, Dan left when he was working with Mark as well. And it's the same sort of, because Mark sort of got sidetracked a bit by the whole fucking Dubai.
Mark said in Dubai as well, like all his focus now is on wealth building. That's where his values are. So he wants people to, he wants us to earn money as opposed to like
better fucking coaches.
Yeah.
But it's a similar thing of like people almost forgetting where they came from, right? It's like the steroid assisted bodybuilder.
Yes.
Giving volume recommendations that he's doing now to the beginner, not forgetting that he didn't remember because he was so far removed from where he was as a beginner that he doesn't really remember it anymore. Like it didn't like it's and again, I'm all for the exercise mechanics world, but it's like the exercise mechanics guys teaching about the perfect squeeze and tempo. I'm like, you didn't build your body like that. So there is a middle ground here. And I think we get in this thing in this business world now where, and it's the same thing. I'm all for an upfront payment, right? If you can give me 5 referrals each to give me an upfront payment, I'll be forever in your debt. But I'm a bit dubious of these coaches that will be like, when people put up, hey, Steve got a 26 grand month. It's like off 3 clients, and now you've got to divide it by 12. So like all cards on the table, because for me, I don't think finance is a touchy subject. Technically, now, you know how Stripe rolls over. It's not this much now. But technically, a couple of weeks ago, it said I had a 7.5 grand month. And you're going, oh shit, Simon's balling. No. Because 2,800 of that was a client buying up front for the year. So I divide that by 12, which brings you back to a very modest income for the month. So like, while that's great, and I'm not slating that, I could get another full payment next month. But if someone promoted that as like, oh my God, Simon's hit a 7 grand month, it's true, but it's not telling the full story. But that's the game the Instagram plays, right? You've got to put a catch bait title on a YouTube video, and you can have nuance in the video. It doesn't really matter. But I do have an issue sometimes with the way the business mentorship in some instances is going, that it's finances above all else. Because at the end of the day, I think we have a responsibility to make sure people have a good product. And if you've got a good product, again, purchase business mentors and people help you with lead gen. It's game changing. But I've been binge watching Alex Hormozi recently, and Alex Hormozi did a video on YouTube recently about how he added 6 million to one of his business's revenue in like 6 weeks, something like this. And the whole video was he improved the onboarding system, he improved the speed at which a client came onto sale to using the product every day. He worked on the customer care to make sure they were sort of looked after during the process so they never dropped off. And he made sure the results were good enough for the retention to be good. Didn't mention about anything about getting clients in. Now, it doesn't mean that getting clients in wasn't a problem before, but they got leads and now they had a new problem. They couldn't keep leads. I would argue, if you want integrity, learn how to keep leads first and then learn how to get them. Yes, I agree. You need to make money. But I feel something a little, and this is why I think a lot of coaches struggle, have a bit of a crisis of confidence. It feels a little bit weird trying to sell a product you know you don't have. Like because you know when coaching, again, this is coaches like it's different between a Mark Coles and a Jane from Paddington, right? In terms of what their product is. It's different from Mark Cole saying, I will sell a course that I haven't finished writing it. Because a lot of people say, don't wait till you finished it to sell it. Like, get people in, get the interest, complete it. I completely agree with that motto. But the difference between someone like Mark Coles is he knows from the years of experience he's done and the mentorships he's done, the education he's done, that he will make a good product. So it doesn't matter because the product will be good. But if someone's doing that when they've never written the course, you have no idea the product's going to be good at the end of it. So you're selling people off a lie. Totally different. Both examples are the same in terms of they're not finished it, but totally different in terms of ethos. Yeah. But anyway, we've gone 20 minutes on a little bit of a rant, which I love, by the way. But what do you guys need? We have our 40 minutes. Anything you guys need? Kevin, you haven't it's either your first or your second roundtable, so I'll let you start. Is there anything you got your client shoot on Saturday?
Saturday, that's going swimmingly.
He looks really fucking good. Is that the guy he posted on stories this morning?
Yeah, that's his first day at carb up. We done 500 carb yesterday, and he's fucking full and lean this morning. So we're going to run 400 again today, and so we still have 2 days of buffering then as well.
Yeah, perfect, mate. You look sick. I think he'll come in nicely as long as he doesn't overstress and overthink it. He'll be fine.
I'll show you later, but I have the original photo, from like that's not 12 weeks. That's over a course of 18 months or more. Like he was a chubby bastard when we started.
Oh, mate, impressive.
But I was going to say, I got a message from a client last night. A friend, she knows the girl in the photo. You ever work with cancer patients? They didn't say what kind of surgery for cancer.
Yeah,
they've been on medication, and I think they're coming off medication now. But they've put on 3 stone, and they were inquiring about potentially working with me. But I've never worked with anything like that before.
Yeah,
and
so
I real history on her now. So
like I've worked with someone that's recently in remission with cancer rather than cancer. Let me find this photo.
What's remission?
Huh?
What's remission?
Remission's like it's technically gone, but like you never know with cancer, right? Like once you've had it, it can always come back.
Yeah, well, this lady's similar.
Yeah, so like this guy.
Oh.
So it's 20 weeks. Now, the big thing is again, it's totally up to your level of comfort with this, because you could look at this as like, I don't have the relevant experience to deal with someone with this trauma, and I refer on, but only refer on if you know a coach that is actually worth referring to. Because if you don't have one, I'd take it, because I used to think, okay, like don't step out your scope of practice. And I think there's a big caveat to this, which we'll talk about in a second. But if you don't take her on, she will go to another coach that will happily just take the money. And that second coach is probably one of the people we've been talking about in the last 20 minutes and potentially could do us some harm because he sees before and after photos rather than client care. And you, I know for a fact, are smart enough to make wise choices that would do no harm. So I would make sure first that you are before working with her, you're like, okay, cool. Could you message, like, put me in touch with your doctors, endocrinologists? Could you get some bloods? Like, just cover your bases in terms of like knowing what you're looking at. And then like anything is out of my scope of practice. Like, I think we have this too much of a blanket rule of don't work without your scope of practice. I'm like, yes, I agree. However, if we never, ever, ever, ever work without someone without experience, none of us would ever have had experience. If you want to be a person that helps triathletes, at some point you've got to take on your first. So it's like, refer to these people, work with these people, and go, look, like I am not an expert in these. I will work with your doctors and I will make sure we look at things to do no harm. But like, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. In the same way that someone is like, look, if you want to win this triathlete tournament, go to a triathlete coach. But like, if you just want to work with me because you're like me, that's cool. But like, understand that I might not have all the answers. So I'd look at that, and then a lot of the stuff, again, as you would have seen at the start of yesterday. I know your Wi-Fi went off halfway through, but it's getting uploaded, so don't worry. Like, cortisol is that sort of like big master switch, like the nervous system, and we're going to go into that again tomorrow. Right back onto the science of stress stuff. So like the biggest thing for her is managing a stress cup. Because the higher stress is, the more we overflow the stress cup, the potentially more inflammation there is. We're going to go more into sort of like, that's the big thing. Like, And I would probably not go crazy deficit, but I also probably wouldn't go surplus.
Yes.
Because again, depending on where her stage is, if she's like fully in remission, then a surplus probably wouldn't do her too much harm. But if there's any concern of something like this coming back, and again, this is from my limited understanding of this, we have two sort of pathways. Right? Have you heard of mTOR and AMPK?
Yes.
And if Lorenzo, if you haven't heard of these, the simplest of it is mTOR is pathways that build you up, and AMPK is pathways that break you down. Like simple as that. So when we look at mTOR pathways, they're good for getting us jacked. But if we do have certain unfortunate cells that we want to get rid of, they will also grow too. And this is the reason why often people talk about low carbohydrates and deficits being good for people with cancer, because it will break these things down as well. But obviously a big deficit will sort of add stress to the stress cup. So I'd say I'd probably start on a relatively small deficit, maybe just see where she's at with her food and just manage your expectations that, look, we're not going to be doing a 12-week transformation here, at least in the early stages. Our first goal is to make sure you're healthy, find a sweet spot for you, see where our current nutrition is, play around with it, and then just manage stresses. Watch training volume, watch cardio, a lot of stuff that Blake talked about.
Yeah. I'm assuming that she's over because the message says post-medication weight. Like she's sort of blaming the medication for why she got heavier, which can have a part to play. But I'm assuming that they all clear now. And then
it sounds that way.
Back to exercise, so
which is really nice. Yes, yeah, and I think it's just a case of to go with it slowly. Don't add too much stress to her. Don't break her body down anymore, because I don't know if she's done chemotherapy.
You see, I don't either.
For sake of argument, she says I've done chemo. Like, again, I don't have any first-hand experience of this, but from what I know, it fucking breaks you the fuck down. So, like, the stress on her body will be fucking unbelievable. So it's just sort of mitigating that. Like, probably low inflammatory training, as close to strength as you can probably get whilst being safe, because she might be a beginner with weight training or not very strong if she's done chemo. Yeah. Low inflammatory, manage training volume, see how well she's recovering. If she's not recovering, drop it more. Go easy on the cardio, just simple stuff. And manage expectations. I don't think I can give you too much more than that, just because I personally don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I fuck all information, but no, that's all pretty straightforward. And then I'll let Lorenzo go. I just have one more question then before we finish.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. Lorenzo, shoot.
Oh, right, me. Sorry. No, I actually had more into like programming as opposed to client question.
Yeah, so sure for me.
I've actually, although I feel more confident at it now, like I feel like I've had so many clients come on, and even more this, like, it's just the business is getting bigger and bigger, and
good.
now it's good, but now I'm like realizing I'm getting really overwhelmed, because it's like so many micro changes, so many things going on. I haven't got templates sorted. I'm like fucking like this morning.
You do have templates. They're not in kahunas, but you do have templates. You have a year's worth of templates.
Yeah, no, I know that, and it's just like I'm just getting really fucking overwhelmed, and I just. Like, do you think that I should just copy your templates just to get that in there and have that?
It's not a bad start. So, like, let's build that. Let's build out a year. This is the way I would look at doing it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go to the whiteboard for this, because I think it'd be easier. And I'll pin this so you can see it in big. Cool. Can you see the whiteboard, Rob?
Yeah, perfect.
And you can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, do you know what? You know this yesterday on the deep dive yesterday.
What was the deep dive yesterday?
It was the last one of behavior change, and it was the. What I like to do is do in the deep dives is do 3, and we will have a bit of an interlude, because we're gonna get Shannon on for the month of November from the 8th, doing female health for a month.
Shannon who?
Shaped by Shan. She'll supercharge, but she's female health expert. She can do it to the menstrual cycle, training female. It should be really good. Nice. Even as guys coach, if you train any women, like definitely worth coming to. She can do a 4-parter. And then we're gonna have. So I'm gonna have a one-off one in between. I haven't worked on what I'm gonna do yet. And then month of December, I'll take a module. I don't know, Kevin, if you heard that, but you know the deep dives on a Wednesday. from the 8th for a month, we're going to have a female health guest speaker for the whole month, all 4 Wednesdays. Which will be sick. And then we have I'm going to have a 1 week on my own. Then December, I'm going to run something. I don't know yet. It will depend on how much time people want off for Christmas, depending on how in depth the topic I go. And then we're going to have Dan. You know Dan Walters, who's been on this course? He's going to do an mechanics month in January.
Oh, nice.
The whole month.
Wow, that'd be good.
So it's going to be lots of different people on it, so it'd be good. So whilst I've saved the big guest lecture that people have to pay a lot of money to, these people want exposure. So I'm going to give that in return for this stuff. So, so that's what I was going to. So the last one was behaviour change part 4. I do 3 weeks in depth on a topic and then 1 week practical. And then we just started breaking down clients' habits and how they've changed them. It's really quite interesting.
Okay, I'll have to catch up on those.
I'll go up on the site soon. So this is how I recommend you doing it. And this is how I've got it. So I've got year 1, beginner. Year 1, year 2, probably. Year 1/2 for intermediate, right? And I'll build out a template based off these. And again, this is relevant to your clients. If you only work with intermediate people that train a few years, you might not do a complete beginner one, but this is just an example, right? So here, and again, what I would probably do is write 12 programs. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I have a room just behind the wheel.
What do you mean? A program for every month or 12?
Yes. And I'm not saying that you would change it every month.
Okay.
It's a little bit of work, mate, but I'll tell you, once you've done this once, you'll understand the game-changingness of it.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why, because generally we think in monthly cycles. When we first train to be PTs, I'm sure it's the same for you, right? It's 4 weeks, and you do another program. Every 4 weeks, you get a program change.
Well,
I think it's on the whole relatively ludicrous.
But for me, it was always I always just did 8-week blocks. So this is different for me.
And I would encourage, for the most part, do 8-week blocks. When it comes to length of phase, it depends on the stimulus, right? So, if I go, let's say, high strength here, high strength endurance here, and then hypertrophy here, and then there's a bit more to it than that. But the closer you go to this end, the shorter the phase is going to be. The closer you go to this end, the shorter the phase is going to be. And this hypertrophy bit in the middle is a bit of a jack of all trades, so you can spend a bit longer here.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not saying because it's easier to write programs thinking of it as 4-week cycles and then just don't do them for 4 weeks. Do them for as long as they're necessary, as long as they're working. Then you'll always have more programs than you'll have potentially client length of duration. Imagine this, right? This is at the very least 2 years worth of programming. And now if you have clients that stay with you longer than 2 years because your retention's good, it's probably longer than that because a lot of these programs will last longer than 4 weeks. So you probably end up having 3 years worth of programming by doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we look at a beginner, right, when we looked at the periodization models, where are we probably going to be starting on a periodization sort of
12 to 15 linear.
So what model? What linear, right?
Yeah.
So we're probably looking at full body, right?
Yeah.
So you write a full body program somewhere probably between 10 and 15 reps, right?
Yeah.
And then you can write a progression from this, full body. And what I would do, I would do this separate from any particular client because you'll get caught up in all the clients. What I want you to think of is block a day in your diary where you're just going to, or a couple of days where you're just going to hammer this out. I've got an afternoon free. I'm going to sit in a coffee shop and write programs all day.
Yeah.
So then at this point you can then maybe in the morning you study program design, or maybe you jump on a roundtable or this in the afternoon, write them, and then you can do it based on what is the 70%. So most clients don't have good overhead range. I'm probably going to have high incline presses.
Yeah.
Most clients aren't going to barbell back squat. I'm probably going to have leg press and hack squat or things like that, right? So then maybe we've got full body, let's say 10 to 12. Then maybe full body 8 to 10. And then maybe full body 6 to 8, right? Now, I might not do 4 phases here. I might do 10 to 12, 8 to 10, 6 to 8. But if you want to start even higher, then be my guest.
Yeah.
But now we have these 4 phases here of full body. Now, do they need to continue with full body?
No.
Probably not. Because probably by this point, in 4 months, you probably taught them how to train pretty hard. And they're probably sore going into the next day.
Yeah.
Right? So again, I'm going to show you how to throw audibles in this program, personalize it. But now you've got up to 4 full body workouts that you can use with them. And then at one point they're going to say, oh, my chest isn't recovered. Then you might split it into a 4-day split. Right? So let's say, and it doesn't mean that you can't make this a 3-day split if clients only can train 3 days, but I'll say that. So maybe you'll go, I would either go upper, lower, or cross body. So upper, lower, it's like leg day, upper body day, leg day, upper body day, right? Cross body is hamstrings and glutes with all your pushing, and back with quads.
Yeah.
Right, so now you split it in 4 days. I find cross body works well for girls because girls kind of like the upper lower supersetty thing.
Yeah.
And like training legs every day, guys don't. So I'd probably do upper, legs and arms, upper, legs and arms, because it makes them do the leg sessions because if they don't train arms. So now I would probably have 4 days a week. And if they do 3 days a week, we might go upper, lower, target.
Yeah.
Right? And then from there, we probably move into a more of an undulating approach, probably for the rest of the year, unless you want to move them on to the intermediate split.
Okay, got you.
So let's say we've done an intensification here at 6 to 8, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do, I don't know, we'll go back to 8 to 10 here. And then maybe we'll do strength. Let's do 5 times 5. And then maybe we'll do 10 to 12.
And
we'll
you can
run, like, undulate volumes.
Yeah, you can run and like, but like, realistically, I could run phase 1 there for 8 weeks if I wanted to.
Yes.
And how do you decide when to change to go into another?
When it's not, when it's not progressing.
Yeah.
When the client's bored.
Yeah.
Or when they're not recovering from this well anymore. So like, if I spend too much time in strength endurance phase, I'm going to start getting really bad DOMs, like inflammation, things like this. And in that case, you might move to one of these two, which is a little bit further away from that stimulus.
So my issue is I've just been assuming 4 weeks, change it, 4 weeks, change it, 4 weeks, change it, just to keep like, that's just how I've been doing it. So then now I know I don't have to do that. If, let's say, for example, I ran phase 1 now for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
If at any point, do I need to change any exercises? Like theoretically, I could just keep the exercise the same. Would you think it's good to have like swap, for example, I don't know, like a leg press for a hack squat or something like that?
So there's a couple of things to think of here. No is the answer, and I would encourage more minute changes than big wholesale changes.
Yeah.
Like I've had programs where I've kept them exactly the same, but they want more. And I look at their pictures and I go, right, they need more buys and less tries. I will throw in an extra bicep exercises on lower body too, for example. Yeah. But everything else stays the same. Like the change is like 1 or 2 exercises, additions, or add a set, right? So I'll go into micro adjustments in a second, but you can keep the exercise exactly the same, or you can make adjustments to them. I think early on, you're probably going to make more adjustments to them because probably what you start most clients on, if you're writing for like the 70% of the beginner that's never been in the gym, you're probably looking at so stable where you actually kind of want to integrate a little bit more into stuff.
Yeah.
So you might find there's more progressions in sort of like this block than there is here, because by month 5, you've probably got a good stable bunch of exercises that you can progress and you like and you enjoy.
Yeah.
And then you're probably going to stick with them pretty much all the time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also then bear in mind certain exercises fit certain phases. So I'm not going to do 5 by 5 with a leg extension, and I'm not going to do 3 sets of 15 deadlifts. So the exercise selection when you get to this undulating might change slightly based on the rep range. So just pick exercises that suit the rep range.
Okay.
So you would then switch between high volume, high intensity, high volume, high intensity. Does that make sense for undulating? How you would do that?
Yeah.
And then we've got like strength endurance, which is sort of like 12 to 15 plus. Then you've got hypertrophy, sort of like 9 to 12. Functional hypertrophy, probably somewhere between sort of like 6 and 9. And then strength is probably 5 below, right? Yeah. So I'd maybe do phase 1 here, then phase 2 here, and phase 3 here, then phase 4 here, and then repeat.
Yeah.
Right. So does that give you an idea of how to break up a year's worth of programs?
100%. And then I suppose the last question, what was the question I was going to ask?
Just before I go into that, that's year one, right? And and you can just keep going with that and just keep it very, very simple.
Yeah.
Or you can move into how I periodize for, and this is I think it's a step up in terms of being able to personalize things. I do a hypertrophy phase.
Yeah.
Which will probably run anywhere between 6 and like 20 weeks with a focus. So let's say it's chest and back because that's what they want. And then I'll write, let's say, a high volume phase.
Yeah.
And let's say I do, I don't know, Gironda 8x8. So I go look at that strength endurance column and I go, right, which one am I going to write? Which would I like to do? Okay, I'm going to do 8x8. And then I'm going to do a strength program. So let's say I do 5x5. Cool. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to write, okay, hypertrophy. And let's say I'm going to write shoulders and arms. And then I'm going to do, let's say, FST7. And then I'll write a 8x3. And then I'll write hypertrophy, quads, and building back, right? Let's just go quads and hams, right? A leg special occasion, right? And then I'll do 6, 12, 25.
Okay.
And then I'll write a wave load. Let's say 753. And then I'll do hypertrophy posterior chain. Then I'll write Kevin, give me a strength endurance rep range.
For strength endurance, I'll go 16 to 18, no?
Yeah, well, I'm looking more of a stimulus, like a
particular
strategy.
Well, I'll go lower rep ranges then if that was the case, with more intensity, no?
No, so I mean, like, actually, here we go. I'll do a heavy light. So I'm looking more like a method rather than like, because it obviously strength endurance will be the rep range.
I see, you know.
Yeah, so let's do a heavy light, and then we'll do 8x3, we've done another wave load, maybe do cluster.
Okay.
And these are just examples, right? And that's 11 programs.
Yeah.
So then when you have a client, you've got all these 11 programs as templates, and your client comes to you, they've had a couple of years training experience, you know they can train pretty hard, you're going to put them on this thing, and they go, right, from the pictures and from the conversation, I want to do, I really want to improve my shoulders and arms. Cool. Phase 1. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to pick a strength endurance for them. So I might put, actually, let me change a couple of these. Let's say I put EDT in here, and then let's put a 1.625. Let's put a sort of like a local post exhaust in here, right? So then we can go, okay, after his shoulders and arms session, right? He wants to maybe put a little bit more volume onto his shoulders and arms. These are small muscles. I could probably put more volume directly on there. His cardiovascular system is pretty good, so I don't need to do any cardiovascular work. Maybe I'll do more like local directly into the muscle work. So maybe phase 2 will be this local post-exhaust training system. And then maybe I'll decide phase 3 will be 5x5 because he's never done strength before. So there we go, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Then you just assign those templates on Kahunas or unhide them on sheets. They're all written. You don't have to do them in this order. You pick the one that's most relevant and personalize that.
With the, I've been doing just with the beginner stuff, and like you said, the first few phases. Do I have to do? I've been doing GBC, but I think that also takes up a lot of time because I'm always like, fuck. Then you've got to relook at their gym when you add a new phase. You've got to make sure all the equipment makes sense. Sometimes I don't have that, and it just gives me like an added sort of headache. That makes sense.
You really need to change. Like, if you're having to change things every month based on their gym, then you're probably writing programs that are too complicated for those gyms.
No, but like, for example, trying to superset a leg curl machine with something, most of the time leg curl machines are just like in their own area, or like machines are in their own area. So like trying to superset with dumbbells is always tough.
So maybe you then superset with something that's going to be nearby. So I can bring a bench over to a leg press, like a leg press and prone row.
But, yeah, I know. But then I'm also thinking like clients and my clientele, like for them to have, some of them aren't that confident in the gym anyway. So for them to like pick up a bench in a busy gym and bring it over somewhere, they're just not that. Does that make sense?
Leg press and a push-up.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, work
Right.
well.
Yeah, leg press and a lateral raise. Like you can, there are ways you can do this. Leg press and a goblet, like the prone leg curl and a goblet squat. Agonist antagonist, rather than upper lower.
Yeah.
There's ways you can make this easier for people, and I think you should build your templates with that in mind.
So basically make my templates piss easy with that in mind first, and then go from there. That's
then phase 1, and then when you got here, then phase 3. Now you know you need to go back to hypertrophy program. Then you can start to have a look again. Okay, the legs are shit. Okay, phase 4 here, and then they go, okay, cool. But now the cardiovascular system's shit when I'm training quads. Okay, phase 5 here, another 8 by 3, phase 6. You see what I mean here? Like I've got all these templates written, and I just look at the client and go, right, which template's going to work best for them? Unhide that, personalize that.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
And then and then the last question, when you personalize, you go back to their gym just to double check. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't take too long, right? Like how many exercises? If all of your exercises need changed, then I'm a bit surprised that like most gyms have the same bits of kit.
Yeah, just
the
like
layout. So like again, most gyms are sort of laid out the same way. So like, and then micro adjustments. So let's say we run a program for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say up to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So we probably like have 2 weeks where they start getting used to that program, and then maybe we make a micro adjustment on week 3. Wait 2 weeks, micro adjustment on week 6. Have 2 weeks, and then that be a peak. So that could be something like maybe I'll do I don't know 3 times 6 to 10. What options could we do here? We could add 4th set. We could change tempo. We could, I wouldn't say manipulate the rest pace. We could add intensification. We could go less reps in reserve if they actually can train hard enough. See all these things we can sort of play with. So within one block, we can actually start making small progressions, so they can peak here. If the hypertrophy, that's the aim, right? Hypertrophy here, maybe then add a 5th set here. Or change tempo, or add an intensification. Like you can do exactly the same thing. So it could be here, could be 2 reps in reserve, 2 RIR, and this could then be by week 3 you do 2 weeks at 1 RIR, and then the last 3 weeks you do 0 RIR. And then you can start to play around with those things, and you can have little micro adjustments. But I have templates where all these micro adjustments in the programs are written in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't.
And then I've got like check-in emails that already outline it. That's a template.
Yeah.
Oh, week 6. Okay, cool. It's already written in the bottom of the check-in email.
That's what I need to do. Fuck, it's going to be a lot of work.
Once it's done though, man.
Yeah.
But like, and isn't that like how realistically how long does it take to write a program from scratch? 15 minutes times 15 minutes by 12. If you're focused and you're fucking in, right? You could write year 1 in 3 hours, 2-3 hours.
Yeah. So,
easily. Like, and it might not take that long the first time you do it, but again, it doesn't take that long to write a program out.
When you say you have templates for the micro adjustments, did you say they're in the lab or you have them personally?
So they are. So the I don't know if I've got this in here. I think I probably do. Yeah. So, they will be. So in the blueprint, I think I've got them in there. The blueprint spreadsheet, and also they're not written into the spreadsheets normally. But if I go into here, this I don't know if I've shared this on the group. I will do. But this is like already 24 weeks of check-in emails, pretty much all written. So if you can see here, you'll notice things like I've played around with cardio. I've now added in like things like your him bean and caffeine. The reason why I've added this in is because I know that if I'm not thinking about it, I'm going to forget it. Or every time I want to have your him bean, I've got to find the fucking link. Yes. So I wrote it in. I know at what point I'm going to add it. Then it's like, oh, okay, it's always going to be there. Like it's already ready in the check-in email. But if I go back up to the start, probably easier this way. So week 1, a little blurb about like, hey, well done, you made a great start. You've dropped 1%. Oh, yeah. change the how much 1% it is. And then here are my non-negotiables. It's the same for everybody. Nutrition, no changes this week. Make sure you're tracking all liquids. Same every week, right? Same with every single fucking client. Like this, no changing. Work harder. Like that's all I'm writing in there, but just in a nice way. Then here, little blurb, no adjustments this week. Here, micro adjustments. So if you can see here, they'll go, there's GBC program, or if they're doing backloaded structural balance, and I'll go into a flow of how that works. If they're doing the GBC program, I've increased the set and I've dropped the rest periods because I want density. In backloaded structural balance, if they're doing that program, I want to add a little extra time per loaded stretch and a 1 more second pause at the bottom of the lengthened position. Then if I go into here, now we've got into phase 2, already pre-written. And then there'll be a micro adjustment. See, here's my first nutrition change, my first increase. So I generally will make 2 increases before I make a decrease, normally, or most people. So that's all pre-written, how it looks in food. No alteration to training. Then here, I've got a micro adjustment to training, added a rest pause, no nutrition, added adjustment to nutrition, increase the cardio. And again, I don't use these verbatim. I open the template up and then go, okay, is this relevant for this client and where they're at? And if it's not, I change it. Then I have another increase. And then if you get to this point here, there's a bit, I've got already practicing bracing. That video's in there. I've got them in the week 3 here. I ask, hey, look, great work for the last 9 weeks. Add in a free meal. Free meals pre-written in with guidelines. Where's that? Where are we adding in here? There's a bit where I get to the point where I'm making an adjustment. Look, if I'm increasing food, this is how I'm increasing food. But if I'm decreasing food, this is how I'm decreasing food. So I just delete which one's not relevant. Done. Does that make sense? I can try.
Yeah.
If I haven't put it in the site already, I'll put that in the site.
Well, probably is. I need to look at.
I can't remember if I have or not, but I will do.
Programming is one of my things I'm most shit at. I'm very. Sometimes I feel it's not winging it, but just I don't know my coaching style. I'm very sort of reactive to things or to see how things go, and then I adjust as I go a bit. And
you should have a skeleton before you're active, because then you're active based off what, right? So you have to measure first, be able to test the recess.
Yeah, well that's
so
true.
if you got nothing to test off, it's just changing stuff.
Yeah.
But like to go back to Lorenzo's thing about the say about the flow, like so if I get a beginner, so they'll probably start either on GBC full body. Or backloaded structural balance. Now, GBC full body, so the complete beginners never been in the gym or very little time in the gym, because they're just piss poor weak everywhere. So when they might feel tight, but it's probably because they're weak. So I stick them with full body. If I've got someone who's maybe a little bit of time in the gym and has picked up some bad habits, I'll take this route. Right? So then I'll do GBC 1, GBC 2, maybe I have a GBC 3, right? And then backload structural balance, I have 2 longer phases. So that'll be sort of like having the main lift in the C series. This will be main lift in the B series with the remedial work up front. And then these will both go into what I call a transition phase. And that's my upper-lower split. And either I could just continue with this and undulate it. Right, and just keep the similar structure for as long as they're not bored of it. Or I go more hypertrophy, like that year 2 template. I go more strength, or I go more performance.
You do GBC with the upper lower as well?
Upper lower, I either, depending on the exercise of the client, I either go straight sets or I'll go antagonist. So if it's upper lower, it'll be like, you do an upper body day and the lower body day, right? So I'll probably do like chest back, A1, A2, chest back, B1, B2, arms, shoulders.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And like, so this is the way, and with the, because even here, you go, oh, there's 3 different phases here. No, there isn't. Because you remember that year 2 template I showed you? We have hypertrophy phases. And for hypertrophy, it's beneficial to do a bit of this and a bit of this. Right? Or if we do strength, remember those strength phases that I laid out? the way I've written them is that each strength base will progress on the next strength base. So I go down that, you remember that rep schemes database from Kilo?
Yeah.
If you look down that, you see all the strength bases next to the intensity. If you wrote a program over time, have you blocked out have you blocked out programming hour in your diary yet, Lorenzo?
Yes, but where I'm just so fucking busy at that hour, it just ends up being doing client programs already and setups.
Yeah. So like when you have that in your diary, then you can sort of like go, right, look down that kilo, buy that kilo strength thing and look down and try and create a program for every single one of those intensities, every one of those rep ranges. Then you have a bunch to choose from. And then, so then I could just do, rather than doing hypertrophy, strength endurance, strength, hypertrophy, strength endurance, strength, I just do the strength ones back to back for 3 months, throwing in a hypertrophy phase or a strength endurance phase in there when needed.
Yeah.
We're going to do a hypertrophy block now because the reason why your bench press ain't going up is because your triceps are shit. Let's do hypertrophy and focus on triceps. Or, hey, you're a bit overstimulated nervous system. Let's do a short strength endurance phase and then come back. And you can just run them. Or if you want to do performance, you spend more time on the strength endurance side. The programs are already written in that template I showed you for all of those goals. But the hypertrophy, you use them all together. And the other two, you just delve into one side of it. So that's sort of how it would look. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Just so get it.
It's like I look at programming almost like a choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
So like if you remember Bandersnatch on Netflix, where like you're watching it and then you can choose a story path. That's essentially what I like. Client comes to you, are they weak as piss? 2 options appear. Yes, no, yes. It takes them down the GBC path. Go to page 6 and just says GBC.
You know what I might do actually? I might, the template you've given us for like the timeline and you set out the client's goals and you can put, how much calories they're on, their protein, all that sort of stuff. I might put in the training section. I might just map it out there. So like when I do their weekly check-in, I can look at that and decide, is it relevant to change their tempo? Yes or no, and then do it.
Yeah, I would do that. I'm surprised I haven't done that, in all fairness, because the training doesn't really change hardly ever. You just pull back on volume or increase volume depending on recovery, or you change exercise based on niggles and preference. But other than that, like the overarching skeleton of it stays roughly the same.
Yeah. Okay.
The only thing I'd say about that is that if you're starting to use the template too, you might you have 6 different strength endurance phases. You don't know which order you're going to do them in necessarily.
Yeah.
So that's where mapping it out. You don't want to make it look like it's too much of a template to your client on day one.
No, of course.
Even if it is personalized, they won't know. Sweet. Kevin, throw in your last question. I'm happy to go for a bit for it.
Yeah, got inquiry from a lad that ran his first marathon and he's looking to do a second one, but he's new to the gym and wants to start on essentially strength training. Okay. So, and he inquired me doesn't want any help with lifestyle nutrition, nothing, just training.
Okay.
So, so I've never worked with anyone that wasn't looking for muscle building or fat loss.
So is his goal though? Because this is the thing, right? Because sometimes we hear the marathon thing and that's what he's into and go, oh, he must want marathon training. Does he want marathon training or does he want does he want to be jacked?
It just what I said, he wants to be jacked, but in a way that it improves his, because obviously the growing muscle isn't conducive to performance to a degree.
Yes. I would potentially look at maybe start with something like a backload structure balance template. So you're working on some of the remedial stuff first. Now, we're probably going to look at making sure that if we look at the skeleton here, a little bit of anterior tilt, good for running, right? We need it. If you look at Usain Bolt, he has a big anterior tilt. Too much, unless you're a Usain Bolt, tends to be detrimental to performance. So you're probably going to want a lot of glute work, a lot of hamstring work. Glutes are also going to be the thing that powers you with a run. So maybe we'll start throwing in more of that stuff in there. You're also probably going to work a little bit on rotation. So maybe things like landmine pressing where you rotate, maybe allowing a little bit of a flex while on the rows so we can work that extension. Just so he can, as you see through gates, he can do this sort of stuff. So a bit of anti-rotation stuff, a bit of maybe med ball throws against the wall. But this is all target area stuff. I wouldn't change the fundamentals of your program. So if you've got a program that's like A, B1, B2, C1, C2, D, I would probably have main lift, which is going to be, again, your job isn't to make him to do any funky marathon stuff. It's to get him strong. So squat, bench, deadlift, whatever your main indicator lifts are for him. Same as you choose it for a hypertrophy client in a way. Then B series are going to be things that build up the A series. So let's say squat, look at our weak point database. It's on the site. It's glutes are strong, cool, we'll throw in some glute stuff, or it's hamstring strong, throw in some hamstring stuff, or back strong, whatever. Then C series, you're probably going to look at working more anti-rotation, rotation, tibialis anterior. That's going to be big. All right, tibialis anterior and calves for his running. And then maybe a little bit of conditioning work.
Yes.
But it doesn't really have to change that much.
Yeah, no. I think it's more just me getting in my own head because I heard the word marathon and then I started over fucking thinking things to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, he's a construction worker, so he's active anyway. Fucking.
Yeah, so he'll probably, if he's run a marathon already, he's probably got some understanding of energy system training.
New to the gym, that's all. He's just new to the gym.
Exactly. He'll do his energy system stuff outside of the gym. If you look at it and think it's shit, either advise him yourself or just tell him to go and study Joel Jameson. And then you just focus on getting him strong.
What was that name? What Jameson?
Joel Jameson.
Okay. And then very last thing real quick is obviously he's just looking for training, so he's not looking for coaching, you know. And what you said there about upfront payments, like if you were still on the gym floor, would you put that like in blocks of 10, like 10 sessions? That's the price.
Yeah, I never pay people for sessions individually. If I'm doing one-to-one, they pay for a block.
Yeah, and what a block, like it's reasonable to ask for 10 sessions up front. Like
I used to
less is a bit too little.
I used to do 6, 12, or 8, 6, 12, 18, and 36 is what I tended to do. Okay. I normally sold 18 or 36 because I had 3 times a week, 6 weeks or 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. But I also appreciate that was what I sold because I was in UP and that was the packages and people were pre-sold. Whereas you're a one-man band, you haven't got the gravitas of a UP. So like I maybe would start maybe offer like a 6-week package, like a 9-session package or a 6-session package and just go from there. But maybe make it cheaper if he signs up for like 36.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes. Well, that all makes perfect sense, man. Thank you.
And if it's a bigger package, maybe do installments. So you can do, if you want to do 36 sessions, you can pay it off 2 installments. You're going to pay here, and then we'll set up another standing order for your second payment to come out in 4 weeks.
Perfect.
Sweet. Awesome, guys. I will stop the recording.